You are listening to the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast, where you discover management insights and strategies for your successful dental practice. There are also interviews with key people in the industry who have advice and services to help you and your team achieve great success. Welcome to this episode of the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast. And today I'm delighted, and hopefully there are people out there that will be quite delighted too, just considering what position some people might be in. I've got the magnificent Linda Benn here. And Linda Benn does a lot of work with burnout. And so I'm intrigued to find out more. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you so much, Julie. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
It's so wonderful to have you here too. And in the past, I've seen you be interviewed by my husband, Charles Coves.
Yes.
And then you recently came back in my sphere again, and here you are. So I really do appreciate you agreeing to come on board, because burnout is a thing for many industries, but certainly within the dental practice industry, dentists seem to have those higher figures of suicide, very unfortunately. And I imagine burnout plays a big role, a significant role in their mind space at the time.
Absolutely. And like many other business owners, they're juggling a lot of balls, though with dentists, I guess, well, there's a few factors here. Is if somebody gets an infection, this is just an example, they can lose their license, which means they lose their business. So this is where it's not just having a good team that can manage all the time management and triage of appointments and things like that, but it's also the health and safety of the patients that come in, and to make sure that the hygiene and the sterilization of all the equipment and everything is 100%. There is no room for error at all. So, there's risk for everyone. I mean, though with dentists, they take pride in the work that they do, but because you're dealing in the mouth and there's already a lot of bacteria there, and you're dealing with the head, and, it's like surgery. They're doing surgery several times per day, one after the other, and there's always a risk, and you want the best outcome for every patient, though sometimes there's complications or other things happen, and that is a lot of stress on dentists, because no one is going out to hurt somebody, or there's just a lot of risks that are involved.
That's right. And I think if you're a baker and something goes wrong during your baking process, the ramifications aren't that enormous. But anybody in the medical field, and I think possibly legal fall into this as well, financial management of people's finances could fall into that space as well, where all of a sudden you're dealing with ramifications that potentially have a significant impact on how this person can then lead their life. And that does weigh heavily on dentists. I want to learn more about what brought you to this position, but just because we're talking about the pressures on dentists as well, I've worked with dentists in dental practices for 35 years. And you're right, there is that added layer of ramification that they're always managing. Also, everything is time pressured under the pump. You've got to do that one in half an hour, that in 1 hour. Like the next patient's waiting, and you've got all this pressure, not just from the next patient in the waiting room, but from the staff members going, come on, let's hurry. We've got to get to the next person. So it doesn't really allow for much error. And when it does happen, then we're running late, and that's an amazing amount of stress. I've read several books that all come back to that fact that dentists who have had a whole career, it's too late that they understand how important human interaction is with their team members. And if they'd learned that earlier on, that would generate far less stress for them too. So there's all the team member aspect. If they do own their own business, They've got to worry about all that as well. And there is a certain amount of physical pressure that dentists are under too. Neck strain, shoulder injuries, lower back problems, always looking at the tiny minutiae, sometimes through loops and things. And so then there's an added physical pressure as well. And I thought about this just yesterday when I was speaking to somebody that, and again, this would be the case the minute you've done years of study to do anything, you'd really hope that you loved it because so many people stay in those professions just to honor the fact that they've been through the money, time, and energy to actually get that qualification. This is what I do now.
And they've got that label, they've got the piece of paper on the wall to say, this is my identity, but do they really love it? And that adds another layer of personal stress, because if they're going into, well, any practice and they've got, you know, a whole wait list of people waiting one after the other, and if you don't love what you're doing and you're not a people person, and one little small complaint just triggers you, that's not a good day.
Not a good day. That's not a good day.
Yeah.
And that's the other stress that they have as well, of course, that I didn't mention that I should have mentioned, is that if you are a baker and people come in, they're happy. I love eating bread. Yeah, give me as much bread as you got. This is fantastic. But dentistry is a different kettle of fish. And we're dealing with the anxieties of the patients as well, and the difficulty of working in that environment inside a wet moving mouth as well. So Linda, to go back to you and your roots, how did you get into this space?
Well, I've been in the health and wellness space for many decades. And back when I was 21, I had cancer. And that's when I first met my spiritual teacher, who helped me to understand that I created the disease in my body, and he helped me to understand the mind body spirit connection and why I'd created it, which is my family background and the trauma, and so giving me a different perspective that, okay, I chose my family and we're each playing roles in this lifetime, helped me to disassociate and go, just to understand it from a different perspective. But that's what really put me on the path of studying more holistic health and different modalities, and why do people get sick and why do people have these illnesses, or all these, not just physical ailments, but diseases and mental health. And then as mental health and suicide is getting more and more, and now trauma is more widely spread, decades ago, no one really talked about, this happened to me in childhood, or I was, abused, or I was, because there was a lot of shame around it. And even our parents or grandparents, it's like, well, you just don't talk about it. And you just suck it up and, put your big girl or big boy pants on and you carry on. And that's what they did, back a couple of generations ago, whereas now people are coming out with all their stories. And yes, they're very similar stories, though there's a lot of tools out there where we can talk about our stories without the emotional charge and be at peace around it. And the problem is like I created my cancer is because I pushed it down and I didn't have those tools in order to deal with it at the time. So learning the tools, learning how to heal myself was what put me on this path. So that's when I started my business and working one-to-one, and then it evolved into the training, the coaching, workshop facilitation, as well as then I moved to Silicon Valley, and I was living in California for 7 years, and I worked as a wellness consultant with an AI tech company. And that's where I saw the stress firsthand, really. When in Australia, it's a totally on a small scale. And whereas when I saw the pressure and the deadlines and what's at stake, you know, and all the hierarchy and the fast growing companies in Silicon Valley, where it's like when they're growing, you know, these startups are growing so fast and you can see the cracks. And then the cracks turn into craters, and then those craters turn into the Grand Canyon, and then it implodes and collapses. And that seems to be a common issue with fast-growing companies in Silicon Valley. Yeah, unfortunately, it's like, oh, another one bites the dust. So
yeah. I was feeling the stress when you were describing that.
And I would be working one-to-one with the people in the office. And because I'm an empath, I'm very intuitive, and I tune in on a lot of people. And during the night, it's like, oh, I better check on, you know, this person when I get to the office, and this one. And, you know, so I was picking up that they were calling for help. And then I'd go and see them. And it was like, Julie, they were deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'd go, are you okay? And it's like they're speechless. And it's like, you know what? Come with me, come and have a session. And I'd work with them to calm their nervous system first, but just to release the energy and the stress and calm their whole body down so that they could actually function in the office and then be able to go to the meeting or to even focus on whatever task they needed to complete, or make that major decision. So this is, you know, everyone handles stress at different levels.
Yeah.
And part of my role, I was teaching meditation as well as self-care, as well as teaching yoga and showing people what they could do to manage their own energy in their own body. And breath work is one of them, and which has become very popular now. and so there's a lot of tools that everyone can do on a daily basis, regardless of what industry you're in. And it's about practicing those daily tools in order to manage your own stress levels and manage your own energy levels as well throughout the day. Because
yeah, it's interesting because the concept that I can imagine a lot of people have is I just don't deal with stress well. I don't work to deadlines well. This is just the way I function. I'm always function at this high stress space. And they indicate that, you know, they're not happy about that, but this is just what I do. However, it's the tools that make the difference, isn't it? The minute that you've got tools, all of a sudden your life experience becomes quite different. And so you have to change things up a little bit, adopt new things. How easy was it for you to adopt a different kind of mindset when it came towards your health? Because I agree, I don't think any of us truly understand how our bodies really work and what kind of, you know, if you're talking from an epigenetics perspective, the energy that and the environment that we're creating for our own bodies, I don't think we understand it very well.
And we are all energy, but we also have this conscious mind, which has a lot of old programs running and a lot of mental old patterns, plus any childhood stuff or all, you know, dysfunctions and things that we brought into adulthood. And we all are different personalities. So this is how everyone is so unique, and so no one's the same. And this is what makes us all so unique and beautiful souls, because we all came in as individual souls in order for us to learn and grow. We're not cookie cutters that, you will function like this and you'll react and respond to this. And if someone pushes a button, this is the response. It's like everyone has feelings and emotions. So depending on your emotional intelligence, depending on how you manage stress and how balanced you feel within, and also your self-care, your stress management, and your environment that you live in. If you come from an environment which is stressful, well, then you're already running in that fight and flight response. So that could, any other little trigger may tip you over the edge. For an example, driving to work in traffic and someone cuts you off. Most people, will go, oh, he must be in a hurry. But others get road rage and finger or honk the horn, and it's like you watch different human behavior, and sometimes it can just be a build-up as well. And this is why it's up to every single individual to take responsibility for how they feel on a daily basis, and do a daily check-in, and also have a morning and a nighttime routine to set the tone for the day. And this is where a lot of, again, practices, gratitude is a big one, doing your breath work, having a morning routine of either meditation, journaling, some movement or a quick walk or some kind of exercise. Even if it's stretching, there's a lot of energy medicine movements that I also teach my clients, to manage their energy. That also is good brain gym as well. And so it's having these little daily practices and a routine, and creating these healthy habits in order to sustain your own mental health as well as physical health.
Are you talking about, in that working environment in California, that to be able to bring some of those tools into an organization as well, and have it, yes, we're addressing the productive money-making side of it with dental practices. It's, yes, we're addressing that, and also the patient management side of it. But there is going to be an aspect where we're going to acknowledge the things that we can do that are helpful for all of us when our days do get stressed, when we do start to run late, where something did bad happen with a patient.
Exactly. That, yeah. And it's being able to, well, in a dental office, I don't think they have a wellness consultant to run to.
Give it time.
This is where the office manager, or having a really strong team that is supportive, and where you can all support each other. And especially if someone's having a bad day, or if someone's off sick, that puts pressure on the others. So in a small dental office, it's crucial that you all are supporting one another, and that the team is cohesive, and that you're there for one another. Whereas in a big corporate office, there's lots of different departments, and depending on how big the company is. So I was working there as their wellness person, and I was the go-to person every time someone was stressed or having a meltdown, or if they had a car accident, or something happened on the way in, they'd come, and sometimes it was just give them a hug and reassure them that everything will be okay. Just, calm down, and just take them through a few different reminders, because everyone's heard, oh yes, I have to, do this and this. But when something happens, all that goes out the window when you forget, and it's like, oh, you're in that fight and flight. So it's you're not making the clear choices that you would when your nervous system is more calm. And again, this is where deep breathing is so crucial. So
Yeah.
crucial.
And we because we are human beings and we have our own lives outside of work, quite often within dental practices like every other workplace, it may not be stress from inside the practice that's triggering somebody in that moment, but they may come in stressed because something bad's just happened. As you said, they may have had a car accident on the way in. They may have had a negative medical diagnosis. They may have had a breakup, anything. And the inclination sometimes is to, well, if it's not relevant to these four walls, am I in a position to talk to this person about it? I don't want to step too far into their world. It may not be appropriate, all the things. And I agree with you, when we are stressed, that's the time we're going to forget all the tools ourselves, but to have somebody else remind us of those tools and to bring us to a point where it's a helpful next step for them, that's extraordinary. That's extraordinary. And it helps the team as a whole, absolutely, certainly helps the individual. And this recognition that, because my inclination is to acknowledge that a lot of people think, well, work is stressful, so of course I'm stressed. Of course I feel under the pump. Of course I'm feeling overwhelmed. But when you start to recognize two things, number one, you actually don't need to feel this way. If you had, there are other ways. Other people are also having the same workload in the same conditions, but they manage it differently. But
That's
also,
right.
so that's the tools, but also recognize the impact, and you had that impact that it has on your body. This isn't the drawback to overwhelm, stress that is unmanaged, isn't just you're uncomfortable in the moment. There could be permanent or long-term damage or more systemic damage being done to your body, to your relationships, to your
Absolutely.
sense of self.
Absolutely. And that's what causes illness and disease. So back in the day, the tigers chasing you, stress levels go up, cortisol goes up, adrenaline. And then once the tiger's gone, well, then the body calms back down and, you go back to grazing. Happy days. But if it's a colleague in your office that's stressing you, or your boss, and it's ongoing, that means that stress level is staying up there, then that will affect your sleep, then that affects every system and organ in your body. And if your body is under chronic stress for a long period of time, and it happened to me, that's when autoimmune disease will set in. That's when the heart attacks and the strokes and so people can go, oh yeah, I'm fine, I'm just running on adrenaline. And a lot of people, add in the caffeine or the Red Bulls or all those really high caffeinated drinks or the energy bars or whatever it is, and that's what they're running on. And so that's not sustainable as a healthy long-term lifestyle, because the body is not designed to operate at running on that level. That's like driving down the highway in first gear. The revs are just like, the engine's going to blow up if you keep trying to run at 100 kilometers down the freeway in first gear. So again, you got to listen to your body, and this is what I teach people, is like the body is the barometer of the soul. Now, if you're ignoring all the signs and the symptoms of what your body's telling you, well, then you're setting yourself up for illness or disease. And this is where the whole burnout thing comes in. A lot of people don't even realize they're burnt out because it's a gradual thing, and it's like a slow boil. It's a bit like the frog in the pot. The frog doesn't realize the water's getting warmer and warmer, and then the boil just keeps boiling and boiling until it's too late. Well, that's the same with our bodies. The cortisol and the adrenaline, and then the lack of sleep that happens too often, because I speak to a lot of business owners and people in corporate, is they can go all week, on very small amount of sleep, but on the weekend they crash and they catch up on sleep. But it's about managing and balancing that out. So you're not just running on 100, revs per hour all week and then crashing on the weekends. But then some people continue to work on weekends. So there's no balance in their work life and playtime and off time and off screens. And so another thing is, how much time are you spending on screens? There's a whole bunch of apps now that'll come up with warnings. You've spent so many hours on your phone or on screen, and so they're actually measuring what it's doing to your physical body, and not just, well, for your mental health as well. So yeah, it's a dominoes effect. And then it affects, like inflammation goes up, it affects your digestion, it affects your sleep, it affects how responsive you are, or maybe you come home and your kid has just, spilt milk on the floor, and next minute's like that's the straw that broke the camel's back, and you react and yell and jump up and down, and it's just spilt milk, and then that traumatizes the kid. So there's a whole dominoes effect that it then affects your relationships, or if you snap at your partner or your friends, and it's like, whoa, where'd that come from? Or it affects all relationships plus your health and your mental health, and it's
and your relationship with yourself as well, because you're not feeling competent in that space, are you? You feel like you're lacking. You're telling yourself you're a person who is not good enough.
Yes, that's right. And that's one of
and
the
it seems like it's a creep of burnout. I was going to ask you, what does burnout actually look like? What are the warning signs? But you've just listed a whole range of them. Are you snapping at people when there isn't enough reason for it? Are you starting to exercise less, sleep less, get more stressed about the amount of work that you've got to get done? Have you got physical breakdown? Are you now tired? Do you have aches and pains? Are you suffering insomnia and you can't sleep because your brain keeps moving? And so it seems like that this slow creep, and we adapt so swiftly to the next creep, that we think this is the norm. This is just the way my life is, and it's up to me to be happy about it because I can't change it. But it's about arresting that creep and recognizing that this isn't going to end well if we don't do something about it.
Well, exactly. And a lot of people, if they're tired, they go, oh, I'll just grab a coffee, or I'll have one of those energy drinks, and so they ignore the fatigue, or if they've got a headache, oh, I'll just take a pill and numb out my body. And again, every pill or medication you take has got a side effect in your body, because then your body's got to try and process that, but then you're turning off your natural receptors to your body's warning systems, going, you need to rest, you need more sleep, warning, your body's about to break down here unless you listen and actually get some sleep or eat a meal, or what. It's not just diet, but it's overall listening. And this is where just simple daily practices of meditation, breath work, stillness. The best thing, there's a statistic, if you walk barefoot on the grass, it lowers, and I think it's about 30 minutes. They've done a scientific study. It lowers stress by 62%. So what you could do is walk on the grass, but do your deep breathing and move your arms, and then repeat one of your favorite mantras or whatever it is. I mean, everyone's got their favorite things and they just like listening to it. You know, it's whether I'm love, I'm light, or I'm confident, or I'm successful, or whatever it is that you need in that moment, or I'm just calm and relaxed, especially under pressure, or I love my life, I have the best life. And walking on the grass, because at the bottoms of your feet you've got spinning chakras, and you're connecting with the earth energy, and you're sucking up the EMFs from the earth, and that those ions are going up through your body. And because we're all energy, we're also connecting. But just being out in nature, and especially if you've got bare feet, you're sucking up that earth energy, but just breathing in, you're bringing the life force down into your body. So then that's a beautiful and natural and free, by the way of reducing the stress, the anxiety, the overwhelm, anytime, any day, anywhere.
And it doesn't take that much time. A lot of people, they keep this high level of stress. Don't worry, I'm having 2 weeks off soon, and that's when I'll get better.
And that's usually when they fall sick, or they have a breakdown, or something else. Yeah, a lot of people go away on holidays and then they get sick.
I like what you said about, you know, we suffer these medical complications or medical symptoms crop up, and then we go off and if we've got a headache, we'll take a headache tablet. You know, if we're filled with anxiety, we put on antidepressants, and there's all these pills that we take. And I heard someone give a fantastic analogy around this, that taking medication when your body is saying, hey, something's going on here, it is like us having the engine light go off and start flashing in our car. Yes. So we take it to the mechanic. Why do we take it to the mechanic? Because we know that is the car's way of telling us something is wrong and something needs to be addressed. And it's like taking to the mechanic and saying to the mechanic, can you unplug that globe? Because it's telling me something's wrong. And thinking that's fixing the problem.
And when they understand that metaphor, and it's like, well, yeah, that really doesn't make sense. Why would I do that? And why would I just disconnect that part of myself by ignoring it? Or
yeah. Why would I just stop that flashing symptom? Why don't I, you know, just like my car, why don't I get to the root cause behind it and actually manage it properly? Yeah.
And that's why I've always worked with the root cause. You know, when I had cancer, it was like, okay, what's the root cause of this? Oh, it's all the suppressed emotion for years and years. And it's, everyone has a story. Everyone has, you know, pushed some emotion down. And now this is the journey we're all on. It's like some more than others came in to clear up more layers. Some came into this life to have a very cruisy life. Others came in to have a very eventful life and lots of significant emotional events and karma and things to learn and grow from. And so everything that's happened has happened for us to help us be stronger in who we are, because as a being, as a soul, we are so powerful. And so no one's a victim. We all have choice. We all have choice how we react or respond to different situations or circumstances, or even a trigger. And this is our job in this emotional human body, to go, oh, I'm triggered. and to take responsibility for, oh, what is that emotion that I'm feeling, and what's an example of, and where am I holding that? And these are the shadow aspects of ourselves, and we all have these shadow aspects. Some people call them archetypes, some people call them blind spots, other, there's lots of different labels, and we all have these parts of ourselves that it's they don't need fixing. We're not broken. It's about acknowledging that, and it's like, oh, this is part of who I am, and I'm at peace with that, and I acknowledge it, and this is how I react or respond, and it's like I'm okay.
Yeah. It's interesting, I sometimes people say to me, oh, because they'll be a dental practice owner and there'll be so much stuff going on with them, and they think, and then they say, I don't think I'm cut out for practice ownership. When I sell the practice, then my life will get back to normal again. Or, there could be some dentists out there saying, I just don't like dentistry. I don't like being a dentist. The minute I switch professions, then everything will be better again. If I get a better group of team members to work with, then my life will be, if I've got better patients, more understanding patients, then, easier patients, then my life will get better. But it's not necessarily about changing the aspects of your world in order to avoid burnout or start enjoying your world more. It's more about tackling those beliefs and taking that responsibility and taking charge of how you respond to life, isn't it?
Exactly. And also taking responsibility about who you are being in each moment, because your energy and what's going on in your internal world will be reflecting your external world. So if there's chaos going on internally and mental conflict and all these dramas and stuff going on, and especially if you are burnt out and you're stressed and you're overwhelmed and you're not sleeping and you're irritable and all that's going on, and then your team members around you are all affected because they will feel that energy. And I've spoken to a dentist that getting the right staff and any turnover, it's extremely stressful. And so having a really solid team and of people, it has to be cohesive, but you need to be grounded and solid because you're setting the tone for everybody else.
Yeah.
It's like the at the orchestra,
Yeah.
and everyone's playing a different instrument, but you're orchestrating, and so depending on the tune and the flow of energy in the office depends on the music and the tune that's played on a daily basis, and then celebrating at the end of the week, especially if you've had a good week. It's about acknowledging all the staff and your team that work with you, because it is a team effort. It's not the dentist here. It's like they wouldn't operate if it wasn't for all their team members, because everyone is playing a crucial role and a different instrument, part of the music and the flow
Yeah.
of
And
energy.
I like that thought of that whatever energy you bring in, it's compounded because other people feel it, then react to it, then start interacting with each other. With that, it gets compounded over and it gets more intensified. And in essence, kind of, it can go bad real quick. But if you're bringing in that different positive energy, healing energy, I mean, we are in dental practices, they're healing places to a certain
Yes.
degree anyway. But
Yes.
to take that level of responsibility of triggering that vibe. What vibe are you going to be triggering with, in the ripples of the pond? Who is going to be stepping into that pond? Yeah.
And also the patients will feel that energy as soon as they come in. And also, and this has happened to me, I had a crown, and the dentist, he had and it wasn't my regular dentist, and but I felt his energy, and it was like, oh my God, get me out of here. And but it's like a whole crown, that's a whole procedure, and it's a lot of drilling, and it's a lot of trauma. And well, guess what happened? It's like that crown fell off. And so it was the energy, like, and this is where, and this is again where infection can happen, because if the patient's stressed, because the dentist is stressed, or the staff is stressed, well, everyone feels that. And then the recovery, especially with any extractions or any any drilling, that will affect the actual recovery and success of uh, whatever the procedure is for the patient as well. So it's a whole ripple effect.
I believe that. I remember years ago when I first, with a young 17-year-old, I was speaking to a dentist, and we were doing under GA extractions. And at the end of the procedure, he leant down and he whispered in the patient, who was still under GA, leant down and whispered to the patient, you will stop bleeding. You'll have no discomfort after this. You'll heal beautifully. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in a week's time to remove your sutures, and it will all have healed. And it has stuck in my mind. We need to really understand we contribute to the healing environment, or lacking of healing environment for our patients.
And this is where the self-hypnosis, but basically what he's done is commanded like a hypnotic trance, reprogramming the subconscious mind, because the patient was out, but the subconscious mind is listening, the body. And it's the same when someone's in theatre, in a hospital. The staff and the surgeon, whatever is spoken in the room, the person on the table hears that.
There's a message going through.
Conscious hears that message, and so that will also reflect on whether they survive or whether they recover well. And so
amazing stuff.
Definitely the body is always listening, because we're energy beings, and we're vibrating at a frequency. So even when you're asleep, you're still picking up on things. And so it's like our antennas are always on.
Nice.
And depending on what we want to tune into depends on our frequency, and also how harmonious and balanced and calm we feel. And so are we tuning into classical music or heavy rock and whatever, some kind of
teeny bop music as well? What's your choice? Linda, if there are people out there that want to tune into you, put their antenna up and tune into you, and they are hearing things that they think, gosh, this could be a door creaking open that will allow me to start enjoying my life more and take more control over my life and start having a different life experience within my profession, within my relationships, etc. What's the best way for them to reach out to you, and what does that journey kind of look like broadly?
First, well, there's lots of different ways. I'm on all social media. They can go to my website. They can book a free one-to-one call and have a chat with me. I also have a free burnout quiz, so they can actually answer those questions and actually see where on the burnout scale they are. So it's like they're seeing an evaluation of what's going on for themselves. I also have different meditations and meditation bundles, depending on what their preference is. And plus, there's other lead magnets and things on there that will help them just to start tuning in to what's priority, what's important in their life, and just start with simple daily habits and practice that and keep doing those daily habits for 30 days, cross it off on the calendar, and then at the end of 30 days see how you feel. And it's a consistency of continual doing those daily habits plus the self-hypnosis, and just keep reprogramming, rewiring your brain. I've got an ebook on rewiring your brain, and that lists a whole bunch of different tools that you can do on a daily basis, or to integrate into your daily routine. So there's a lot of different ways. I also am about to launch my Burnout to Balance and Beyond program. And so that is going to be 90 days of weekly calls plus training. And they have access to me every week on Zoom. So
Fantastic.
That's another option that is coming up as well, and so valuable. And then they've got one-to-one and weekly calls.
Excellent. Excellent. It's been such an interesting conversation, Linda. And, we are so much more aware around the impact of our thoughts and our behaviors and now than we ever have in the past. And we recognize too that we are wildly malleable human beings. This doesn't have to be the truth. We can, mix it up and do different things and really start to thrive in our lives. And you are the avenue for many people for doing that. So I really do honor your work. And I think it's so incredibly important work. And I recently was speaking to, or not recently, maybe a few months ago now, to a couple who own a dental practice, and one of their team members, very unfortunately, committed suicide. And as you were talking before too, the ripple effect of all we do has an impact on each other. It makes you start to realize we are all
Absolutely.
One being because
we're all connected.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So to be able to move down a healing path, identifying these sort of really helpful tools for yourself will help you then in your working environment, help other people that might be going through difficult times as well. But the best time to get help is always the first time that the first sign of trouble, which was usually a way ago. The second best time is to do something right now. That's the second best time to do something about it.
Exactly, to stop the burnout cycle and then learn the tools to prevent it in the future, and just really start living from a place of joy and gratitude and love, and jump out of bed and go, wow, I love my life, I have the best life, and actually feel it, and tell yourself, and then look in the mirror and feel that, and just the more we can operate from that place of love and joy and peace, that automatically brings up our vibration, our frequency, and then that has a ripple effect. And anytime we connect with our heart, because of the electromagnetic field of the heart, well, then that has a ripple effect of everyone around us. So there's so many things that individually we can do that has a massive difference on everyone around us. And so but again, it comes back to responsibility for ourselves, self-care for us, and then share our overflow of love and light and peace and joy, and uplift others around us, and especially if someone is having a bad day, or needs a hug or needs some kind of support, is like provide that, be the caring person for your brother and sister out there, because we are all connected.
Yeah. Beautiful. What a great way to end the conversation off. Thank you so very much for your contribution to this wonderful episode. I just loved it.
Thanks, Julie. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it too. And thank you, listeners. Please reach out if you've got any questions. I look forward to having a chat with your audience as well. So thank
Beautiful.
you.
And I do encourage people to reach out to you. So start that healing journey. And this is a lifetime of healing, that you'll be in a lifetime of happiness that you're triggering. So if you're uncomfortable about the process, just ring Linda, contact her. She'll talk you through it, and it'll make you feel that there are opportunities out there, because that's what it is, isn't it? When there's avenues, tools available to us, that equals hope that things can get better. Thank you so much, Linda.
My pleasure. Thanks, Julie. Thanks. Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, then I encourage you to head over to Amina and my website, dentalbusinessmastery.com.au. You will find all the information that you need if you would like to gain our assistance in helping you and your team achieve great success. We've got online courses, consulting programs, the club membership. We also have a whole bunch of tools and resources that are available for free that will help you achieve your practice goals. If you would like to find out more, you can also email us directly at info@dentalbusinessmastery.com.au. Thanks so much for listening.